Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Office Add-ins Community Call. My name is David Chesnut, and I'll be hosting the call today. We have a pretty good agenda lined up today, so let's take a look at who's here today and presenting. So our first item today is talking about support tickets on Microsoft 365. So Richard Taylor will be talking about that. And then Sudhi Ramamurthy will be sharing some Office Scripts update. And Office Scripts is kind of the theme of today. We also have a special guest joining us today, Leslie Black from Analysis Cloud Ltd, who has a really nifty demo of Office Scripts tic-tac-toe that he built, and he'll be sharing his experience with putting that together. And then finally, I will be showing a new Pmp sample that we put out that shows how to use the set signature in Outlook. Now, as we go along, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat and we will answer those as we go along. If there's any questions that we're unable to get to today, we post a blog summary of the call shortly afterwards. And if there's any unanswered questions, they'll get answered there. With that, I think we can go ahead and get started with our first item on opening support tickets.
Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Taylor. I am a senior escalation engineer for Premier support at Microsoft. And I was going to talk to you today about opening support tickets and what to do and sort of go what to expect and kind of what is available in terms of options of support and so forth. Assuming you need help with an Office add-in issue, we have several options available, but the first thing we'd want to sort of point you to is to check out our documentation portal and the troubleshooting articles that we have. Here are 3 listed articles: troubleshooting development errors, troubleshooting user errors, and the resource limits and performance optimizations. These are good articles relating to a lot of known issues that we have regarding doing add-in development. Some of you have maybe be familiar with this already, so this is not new, but it's a good resource to go to make sure that you're finding the latest, and we are updating them so they are getting current and new information that's being added to them. Assuming you need more help than that, however, we do have a series of options that are available for support. The first being our community and QA answer forums, concierge services, and premier services. Each one offers different options. In my term of good, better, and best, it's basically in terms of the amount of resources that are available for each particular item. Community and answer forums requires no subscription. Anybody can open an issue. MVP and MS agents do review those, and those do get percolate up to support if enough people respond on the thread. So it's basically triggered by responses, and or if agents pick up something that seems to be very hot or very critical, they can open an issue indirectly from the forum. We do have what's called a supportability program manager that routinely reviews and gets reports. They send those reports out, and so we do see those. So support is aware of some of the issues that are on the forums and bring that to the attention of the product group when we can, when something gets hot. If the other way is through concierge services, but this is the Office 365 Admin Center or Admin Portal. On this page, you can open a request for its support on any issue regarding O365. This does require a subscription. Generally, for add-in development, it requires usually an enterprise. There are some business licenses that would also allow it. It depends on your license, but enterprise definitely. The portal self-service, and any person that is supporting and helping you on that can RFC to the product group for assistance. Our best option for support, though, is Premier if you have a Premier contract. It could be yourself has a Premier contract, or it could be a customer you're working with has a Premier contract. It is the best. And the reason it's the best is because there's a dedicated developer support team of engineers on the support side who do nothing but Office add-in development. That is what they do. So that's the best group to talk to. Obviously, you also get critical hotfix support, and there's even the availability of on-site support. So if you're dealing with a nasty issue where a problem is occurring only on a customer site, works everywhere else, but this particular customer is having problems and you can't resolve it or can't find a way to it, Premier does have the ability to send a PFE engineer, that's what's called Premier Field Engineers on site, to actually investigate the issue on site. So I'm going to give you a quick demo. This is basically, well, I decided instead of doing a video, because I wasn't sure how well it was going to work, I was going to go ahead and just do it as a sort of a slide deck here. If you go to the Office 365 Admin Center, so this is admin.microsoft.com, you will be presented with this page. You either need to be the admin for the subscription, or you need to be somebody that has been designated by the admin as a portal user. So the admin can set up other additional users as support contacts or as admin users to get to this portal. But once you do, you'll sign in with your Live ID account or Microsoft account, and you will see essentially this sort of site and page. There's two ways to create an incident. One is there's a little option here in the support thing to request a new incident. There's also this little pop-up that appears in the bottom right-hand corner that just says need help. You can also click on that. When you do that, it'll bring up this side pane. You just enter what you need help with, and then you press the Get Help button. And essentially what that'll do is it'll try to do some diagnostic on what your issue is, provide you if there's service outages and things like that. But other than that, it'll provide these options. And of course, the options to let us call you or email us is what you want to use. And when you use those and you hit send, your case is open and somebody will get back in touch with you. A support engineer will get back in touch with you as soon as they can. So that's how you basically use the admin portal. It's pretty simple, it's self-explanatory almost, but just want to make sure that you are aware that you can use that for any enterprise subscription that you have for O365. The way that we sort of prefer currently, so the admin portal is it does handle Premier accounts, but it needs to be improved. We're working on it. We know it. So if you have a Premier account, the way that we still recommend you use it is use Service Hub. So Service Hub is where all Premier and partner accounts are able to create tickets for any Office product. It doesn't have to be related to Office specifically, but you can. And this is servicehub.microsoft.com. Again, the admin can set up support contacts who is allowed in the company to view this portal and edit through this portal, and you could be the admin. When you go to the Service Hub, it's, again, the easiest way to do is go to the Support tab, go to Contact Support, and then they will bring up another window here, and what you want is the middle option with the blue button where you click and you say Contact Support. Essentially, it'll then take you to a form where you request what your issue is, what product you're dealing with, and how you want to be contacted back, and so forth. And again, that'll open an issue. As long as you say add in development and working with that, you should get to the right team anytime in Premier, and that should probably open that ticket for you and get that for. When you get the support case number is what will be provided to you on the response. We ask that you add that to any title of any subject line on any email communications, or that you provide it. The reason is the case number will be tied in to any open RFCs, bugs, hot fixes, or any type of issues that are made to the development or product group as a result of your case. And so it's always a good reference because we can always get to any of that other information from that case number when you use it, because it's so central. We ask if you have steps to reproduce this issue, you provide those, or give us a walkthrough, such as a video or other type of information. Coding issues can be kind of tricky. It's hard sometimes to explain, but if we see it or you can get a visualization, that's always very good. If not, if you have an issue that, again, is only reproducing, say, in production or at a user's environment, we have several tools that are available depending on the issue, different types of tracing, different types of logging that are available, and we'll certainly help with any of those. The other thing is if you do go through the admin center to open an issue, you sometimes need to specifically request that you work with the Office developer team. For historical reasons, they're called Visual Studio Office Developer. That is the group in Premier that is specifically set up to do add-in development. If you open through the Services Hub, you'll get to them automatically. This is just, again, an issue we're working on. It should get proved better where it'll just be automatic in the future. But for now, just understand that you might need to do that to get to the best team for support. And I just would ask that if any of you are not feeling like you have a support issue and you're not getting an issue resolved to your satisfaction, you can always ask for a review by an EE that's an escalation engineer in CSS Premier. It doesn't matter how you open or who you're dealing with, EE reviews are always available. And basically, escalation engineers are the top level support that you can get. And we do routinely review and, of course, work directly with a product group to make sure that your support issues are taken care of. And that is the basics of basically getting to open a support ticket. Does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Richard, it looked like there was one question in the chat. There might be one or two more, but I think it was about SharePoint. Someone was trying to get help with SharePoint.
Okay, yes, you can use the O365 as well, the portal. I'm trying to see, where is it?
You have to scroll up to it. It's from Christian saying, when we try to open tickets in the admin center regarding SharePoint development, they're getting closed, saying we don't provide support. So
for developer issues. Okay, so it depends on exactly how you're presenting it. So say that you're doing it, probably the best in this case would be to say that it's SharePoint on-prem. Tell them it's an on-prem issue. That will probably get, what I have a suspicion is the contract. Again, it depends on how your account is tied in on the back end, what product code it's tied to. If it's tied to a cloud services, you probably are talking to the cloud folks, and they're probably saying, yeah, we don't do that. And the best way to say is, no, we're doing SharePoint on-prem, we're doing add-in development. Doesn't matter whether it's on-prem or not. You just want to make sure you get it to the right group, and it would depend on the contract. The other thing that you could do is talk to your ADC or your TAM, assuming you have a Premier or ADC contact. If you don't, you can also reach out to the support line. You can call support directly. That would be the other way of doing that to make sure that you're getting it. You shouldn't. So there are restrictions on who can't get help with developer issues. It is based on the licensing. All right. So we only offer it for Enterprise and Premier. And so if you have a contract and it's a subscription and it's tied to a subscription that is something else, it may be also that you're being denied to that. But my guess is that it was going to cloud only.
Thanks, Richard. There might be one or two more questions that pop up. Would you mind just hanging on the web chat and just
no problem
out there if any pop up? And then I think we'll move along because we've got a full agenda today.
Sure.
So let's switch over to the Office scripts update with Sudhi. Sudhi, are you presenting?
Yeah, let me take control. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Sudhi Ramamurthy. I'm one of the program managers on the Office platform team. I'm focusing on Office scripts now. So anytime we get an opportunity to come to talk to our add-in friends about Office scripts, so we're really glad. So thanks for this opportunity. So my part of today's talk is going to be fairly short. I know in this forum, I think maybe about a couple of months ago, I had done a short presentation about what Office scripts is and how you can use it today. So today I'm just going to recap in case you missed that or anybody new in this audience. And then I will hand it off to Leslie, who's going to show more interesting demos. So just to recap what Office scripts is. So it is a new application within Excel for web. And it basically allows end users to automate their tasks, their day-to-day tasks within Excel for web. So you can access it today. So if you have Office 365 account, you can go to any file that's stored on either SharePoint, OneDrive, and you'll be able to access this. You do need E3 or above in terms of the licensing. So once you have that, you can access this today in Excel for web on the browser. So I'm just going to play a little video here and walk you through what this experience looks like at a high level.
This is a
version of Excel for the web with a
few of our experiments enabled. On the Automate tab,
we're making a few layout changes.
We continue to try and learn what works best across the interface. While recording, I can now capture actions in relation to the edge of ranges. Once a script is saved, they appear on a more approachable details page. With easy access to new script from the ribbon, I can get going with scripting faster. And with a resizable task pane, I have a little bit more flexibility. We're also making API improvements. To help you do more with Office scripts.
So awesome. So the key thing I want to call out is it's easy access, no configuration, no setup, and the recorder is really sort of your first key step towards not only converting your actions to script, but also to learn and discover APIs and how to use it. Okay, so the second part I wanted to highlight is the usage of Power Automation. So Power Automation allows users to set up workflows that can be triggered using a low-code graphical interface. So you can use various conditions such as file arrival or email with attachment or SharePoint list update to set up your flows. Now, the cool thing is you can now connect Excel with the rest of the business using a run script action under Excel Online. And it'll run the same script that you may develop in the Excel for Web. And you can run the same script and you can send data, you can return data from the script and perform Excel calculations, formatting, data extraction, chart or image extraction, and things like that. So it's really a powerful way for connecting Excel with the rest of your business, but do it in a way that users don't have to be sitting in front of the Excel. So you can do this in an unattended fashion. So the third thing I want to talk about is the enhanced admin control. So admins need control over what's happening with their scripting framework, who's accessing, what sort of scripts are being run, and what are the final level controls that they may wish to offer. Today, within Office Scripts, we offer 3 final level controls. One is whether you can have Office Scripts ability to use Office Scripts or not, and you can do that at everybody level or like a specific group level as well. And then whether a user gets to share the script with their colleagues. Again, within the organization, scripts cannot be shared outside. And the new one that we've introduced is the ability to control who gets to run the Office scripts in the Power Automation. So that's something new that we've introduced lately. And this is sort of a journey that we are on. We will continue to offer more fine-grained help as and when we introduce new features. And the fourth thing is the Office Scripts API. So we've created a new simplified interface for Office Scripts users, and you can easily automate using a very simplified interface. And the key thing is it can be invoked synchronously. So you don't have to deal with promises or callbacks. So this is exclusively for Office Scripts, keeping the end user in mind, given that they may or may not have a computer science background. In addition to those simplified interfaces, we've also worked on improving range and table-related interactions, especially around not having to use the two-dimensional arrays when you're dealing with rows and columns of a table or a cell, because those tends to be a somewhat harder pattern for Office Scripts users to use. So we made it really easy for APIs to be consumed. So in terms of the key features, so first is the APIs. And we've continually been adding new APIs, and we'll continue to do so. Recent additions are like Range Edge, which able to detect your keyboard movement, control key movement, range spilling, cut and paste that you just saw, and table resize. So this is, again, a journey that we are on. Then on the recorder in the right pane, we are making more enhancements to show contextual messages and concise messages rather than sequential messages. So this is just to help relate your recording to the script and to the action message that you see on the right side. And lastly, the admin control, I already spoke to that about adding Power Automation controls. So that is just a quick overview. And I wanted to call out that recently our content team has published, I think, over a dozen advanced samples, and that has complete code as well as the input files that you can use. And many of them have a full-length video. So we'll continue to add more, but these set of samples will give you a lot of business scenarios that you can use today and apply it in your work environment and save time. So with that brief introduction, I will pass the control over to Leslie. And Leslie has been doing an amazing work, not only in creating business critical applications using Office scripts, but he's also been super active in the community as well. And the most interesting part I find about him is he develops and creates new ways to learn a platform in a very interactive and a fun fashion. So hopefully you'll get to see some of that work today. So Leslie, if you're able to take control.
Thanks, Sudhi. I'm Leslie Black, a Microsoft Application Specialist working for Analysis Cloud, the Irish cloud company. I've experience working with governmental organizations in Europe and the UK, building reporting analysis and performance management systems using Microsoft's tools. I've recently finished working with the European Commission in Belgium, building a large-scale 100% cloud-based COVID reporting application to enable them to monitor COVID in Europe. It was built using Azure, Power Platform, and Office 365. Office scripts was used as the central controlling component of that application. And that is where I learnt to use Office scripts, as well as many of the other tools mentioned there as well. The key messages for this demo are: think of Excel Online as a calculation engine available to assist your built online apps. So I appreciate you are add-in developers, but Excel should be considered as a calculation engine which is available for your apps. Complex automation tasks can be written using Office scripts, but Power Automate can reduce that complexity by handling the logic instead. It is your choice. Excel Online has the power and capability to be used as a front-end user interface for your web-based applications, though there are limitations to that, which I shall come on to shortly. Because Excel Office Scripts is integrated with Power Automate, it opens up the whole world of Azure services and data sources available for your solutions. The interface for the game, as you can see, it's in Excel Online. It is a fun example of Office scripts. It's not a business application, obviously, but it was useful in terms of learning to use the script and also demoing. So here we've got the worksheet called tic-tac. We have control options available. So to play first, you put a marker in the yellow grid. You can specify that Excel plays first by putting a 1 in cell M6, or you can clear the board and start a new game by entering a 1 in cell P8. So we have yellow cells there signifying where you can enter data. When you enter a marker into the grid, Excel responds by putting an X marker into an available space in the grid. You cannot enter an X marker as that is reserved for Excel. You can use any marker that is not an X or a capital X, and the markers can be different from each other. When the user wins, i.e. Excel loses, an animation starts. The time taken for Excel to take its turn is displayed in cell N6 in milliseconds. You might be able to see that there. The trigger event is managed by Power Automate. So here we have the Power Automate flow for this application. It contains only 3 connectors. We have the trigger connector, which is SharePoint when a file is created or modified in a folder. And we have 2 action steps, a condition and an Excel run script. So we're testing if the file has the name tic-tac-toe in it. Because Excel currently has only 1 trigger connector in Power Automate, which is not applicable to this scenario, it leaves only the SharePoint file trigger to us as the application's event trigger. This means any change to the workbook file will trigger the Office script. Even modifying an attribute of the file in SharePoint will trigger the Office script. That is, it is not only changes to the workbook contents that triggers the script. So when a marker or any other change occurs in the worksheet, the script needs to ascertain where that change occurred and what type of change occurred. This is done by testing the values within the grid and cells M6 and P8. The time for Power Automate to respond to the entering of a marker is in addition to the time it takes for the script to run. The script takes on average around 70 seconds. The Power Automate trigger ranges from 10 to 110 seconds to run, so Excel can take up to 3 minutes to reply with its marker in the grid. In the following demo video, I have speeded this up. Let's now have a look at the application and see it in action. Markers entered into the grid, and rather than wait for Power Automate to respond, which can take up to 3 minutes, I run the script manually here from the script pane, as shown. After a few seconds, the game over notification appears because we have a row of 3. The message will appear in the messages box, which you'll see briefly, which says game over you won. The animation will start. We can see the multicolored cells there, and it's changed to a different worksheet, and it's displayed a little alien flashing on and off, reappearing. Okay, the time for that response can vary considerably based on the time of day and the load on the Microsoft servers. But again, that's something that I mentioned already. So I think if we move to the next slide. Okay, so a little bit about the script itself. So the script that I've written for this rather simple application is 3002 lines long, 1977 lines of which are for the animation alone. With the Excel macro recorder, building solutions is now extremely rapid. The animation element of this app was built in less than half a working day. That is, 1977 lines of TypeScript code was written in less than 4 hours. And again, that was using the macro recorder, which, as you're probably familiar with, is very similar to the VBA macro recorder. So here's a screenshot of the game being built, and we can see some script here that was generated by the macro recorder. So in this single script file, there's a total of 20 functions, including the main function. The main function is 369 lines long. Excluding the lines of code that control the animation, the total number of lines of code is 960. This is a surprisingly large number considering all we're trying to do with this game is to put an X in an empty cell in the grid. But that is not the full story. Here is the full list of the functions. Those functions used for the animation have been marked with a star. The getRange_count function counts the total number of markers entered in the grid. The findLocation function iterates through the grid, finding a cell that is not listed in Table 1. Table 1 is used to record the locations of the entered markers and the order in which they were added to the grid. It is hidden from user view. The add marker location to Table 1 function adds the recently added marker location to the next available row in Table 1. It uses the cell address value returned by the findLocation function above. The current number of markers added to the grid is compared to the number added to Table 1. Thus, the code can ascertain whether a human or Excel moved last. When Excel enters a marker, Table 1 is not updated, whereas when a human enters a marker, the code does update to Table 1. So I am in effect using the Excel worksheet as a location to store global variables between script runs. This could have been done using a list in SharePoint, but the purpose of the application is to showcase the capabilities of Excel, not lists. Okay, thank you for attending this demo. Here are some links which go to other videos demoing this and the GitHub resource as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Sure.
That was really awesome to see. So I'm going to talk about, we have a new Pmp sample for Outlook. And this sample was actually demoed a little bit by Juan. I think it was back at the January, maybe the February call. Basically, what it lets you do is if I send a new message, it can display this little info bar that says, hey, we see you don't have a signature. Do you want to set a signature? And I can click on this, and it brings up the task pane where you can add some info about yourself and then save that. And then I can see these different template types. There's A, B, and C, and I can test them out, see what they look like. I can assign them to various actions, and these are basically going to be events that I'll show in a second that will get fired. So I can pick like different templates for these, you know, based on if I'm sending a new mail or if it's a reply, and then save it, and it's saved. So now if I send a new mail, we should see that I got my signature showing up there, which is being set from that add-in. So there's a couple things that were happening there. You saw like the little info bar appeared without the task pane being displayed. So that's event-based activation, where you get a runtime to handle events. And then we also use the set signature API to do this piece where you get your signature in there. So let me switch over to the code over here in Visuals in VS Code. So there's a lot of code in here. So I'm just going to point out the more interesting parts of this. So like in the manifest, you'll need to configure it so that you can respond to the events that are coming from Outlook. So if you go down to this runtimes section, you want to set your auto run runtime, and this configures Outlook so that it's going to send you events when there's a new mail item. And then this override is what makes it work on Windows 10 on the desktop. So basically, this first one sets up if you're running on the web, because it's going to load an HTML page. And then if you're running on the desktop, it doesn't load the HTML page. It goes directly to your JavaScript. And you can see that mapped at the bottom of the manifest. Let's see, here it is. So we can see like our auto run is going to load this auto run web HTML. So that loads for on the web. And then if someone's running on desktop, then it will just go directly to autorun_shared.js and just load that. And then the two events are right up here where you have our launch events. And we say, hey, if there's a new message being composed, call check signature, or if it's a new appointment. So we handle both appointments and messages. They get mapped to this check signature function. In the structure of the project here, all the runtime stuff is under one folder and the task pane stuff is under another. So you basically think of these as two different runtimes that are getting loaded. So this runtime gets loaded just for handling the events. And we saw that this HTML page, autorun web HTML, is what's used when you're on the web. And in here you can see it's loading autorun shared and autorun web. So what I wanted to point out here is that if you're running on the web or if you're running on desktop on Windows 10, you might have different code that's running. And so what this is autorun shared is all the functions that get used both for on the web and on desktop. Autorun web, this JavaScript file, is functions that are only used when you're on the web. And the reason for that is if you use the set signature API, when you're on the web, it will work for message items, but it doesn't work for calendar appointments. So that's why in this autorun web.js, when we're going to insert the signature, we actually do a check and we say, hey, is this an appointment? If it is, we're just going to write directly into the body and not use the signature API. If we know it's a mail item, we'll call add template signature, which calls the set signature API. And then in autorun shared, we have that same function, insert auto signature. But if we know we're running on desktop, then we just set the signature because we know it works on both events. And I'm sorry, yeah, both calendar events and new mail items. And you can see down here, when we add our template signature, we will eventually call the set signature async method. This is the preview API. So that's one interesting thing is that sometimes you'll want to think about having different functionality based on if you're on the web or not. And so this shows how you can create a shared context as well as a web specific context. Another thing to show is that there was that little image in the logo in the set signature. Let's see if I still have it here, like this little diamond image that we insert. There's two ways you can put that in. So if we go to the templates, I'm going to start from there. There's three of these functions for each template. So we have get template A, get template B, and C, and they just return the HTML that we're going to embed into the email. So the interesting part of this is just where we create that logo. And there we're going to use this image source set to CID. This means we're going to embed the image into the mail item itself. And so you'll see here where we set that tag up for the image, and then we put in the name of it, which here is, we'll use a specific name. Up here we set it to sample logo.png. And then when we return from this function, we return this object that says, well, here's the HTML, and then here's the actual image that we're embedding. So it's just a base64 encoded image for that diamond. And then here's the file name to use. The second way you can do it, if you don't want to embed it, is you can just reference it directly with an old-fashioned image source tag and point to your server, which in this case is localhost, and just grab it. That's probably the most typical way to refer to an image. So I just want to point out there's two ways to do it, and then that affects back up here where we insert the signature. We're going to check. So we're going to say, hey, if there's a base64 image, I need to add that attachment because it's being embedded. So we'll call this add file attachment from base64, pass it the encoded string, pass it the name of the file, set it to be inline. And then that, once it's attached, I'll get a callback. And at that point, that's what we call set signature, and pass it that template A. Now that's what happens for template A. If it was template B, we'll go down to the else statement and we say, oh, the image wasn't embedded. So in that case, we just directly call set signature, and we don't have to deal with trying to insert the image. Okay, so that's interesting to point out. And let's see, I think that was it. I'm not going to go through the task pane code. It's pretty straightforward. There's one pane that's for editing, which just has all those fields you saw you can fill out for job title and your display name and so on. And then there's the page that will actually assign the signature, so you can pick which templates you want and what actions to put them with. So that part's pretty straightforward. I mostly just wanted to cover what's happening with the events and setting the signature. So if you want to check it out, go look at the PNP-Office add-ins repo. And if you go down to samples, Outlook set signature, you can see the README, shows you how to get it set up, and walks you through some of the code stuff I talked about. This also goes very closely with this document that talks about configure Outlook add-in for event-based activation. So you can follow this document, you can refer to the sample. So hopefully all that information helps you getting set up with Outlook set signature. Okay, so let me switch back to the slides. Okay, so just wanted to highlight, do our community spotlight to recognize folks that have been helping us on community efforts. So thank you once again to Maarten van Stam, who's been helping with PR reviews, contributions on the PNP repo. Really appreciate your help there. And just to also highlight, you know, if folks want to help with the community, we always welcome contributions. We have Office.js Docs PR, which is where all the documentation source is located. So if you want to make contributions and PRs to fix typos or add relevant content, you know, definitely help us out. And there's also the PNP-Office add-ins repo, which, you know, has all the samples, and we're always looking for help there as well. And then I wanted to do some Q&A. So we had a couple of questions come in on the Office. There's a form they can fill out before the call and say if you have a question, and we'll take a look at it. So one question we had was someone was asking, when will the current Outlook preview requirement set be available in production? And I think specifically they're looking for event-based activation to be out of preview. So I checked with the Outlook team, and there isn't a specific timeline yet, except to say it's going to be soon. And I wish I could provide something more specific than that. So hopefully, you know, the next few months on one of these calls, we might be sharing more info. But for now, it's still in preview. Then the next question was, can the Microsoft Graph API be used by an add-in without a dedicated server to proxy requests to the Graph API? So I put in a couple of links here, which I'll also put in the blog afterwards, to this tutorial. And because I think this is probably the answer you're looking for. Let me share, hang on a second, let me share my screen so I can just show you these links. So there's this tutorial that shows you how to sign in and call the Graph API. This is on the Azure Docs from a single page app, and I think this is what you're after. It's like, hey, you could imagine in this image, like your add-ins on the left right-hand side, and you're just trying to sign in to with Microsoft Identity Platform and then call Graph API. Basically, this should work. Office add-ins are just a web server, so anything that works with web server technology should work in terms of authentication authorization. So I'll put that link out there. And just in general around authentication stuff, like I just want to point out there's this good sample out here from Azure. There's probably many others too that has a variety of sections in it about working with identity, working with graph, these other various ways to work with APIs. And these are good resources to check out if these match scenarios you're trying to do. I think we've noticed sometimes folks think that to work with Office add-ins, you might need something special. And really, if you're using standard OAuth type technology, it should work. The only time you need to, the things you need to think about with Office add-ins are really just if you're using SSO, because we have an API that gives you access to the user identity. So then you would need to understand how to call that API. Or if you're going to show a login dialog, then you need to use the Office Dialog API, and these are documented in the docs. Like there's limitations to be careful of, like such as you're running in an iframe, right? So those are the things you got to take into consideration. But in general, things should just work. Let's see. Let me switch back to the slides. Okay, so moving along, I wanted to share if you're new to Office add-ins on this call, there's resources to check out if you want to get started. Definitely take a look at the docs. There's an AKA link there on the slide for office-add-ins-docs. And in those docs, there are a number of quick starts, these little 5-minute quick starts. So if you want to get started building an Excel add-in or an Outlook add-in, those are definitely worthwhile to check out. And if you're looking for more information on automating Excel, as you saw with demos earlier, there's a lot you can do with Office scripts. There's a link there for that as well, to those docs. And we also have some developer resources. I definitely highly recommend the Microsoft 365 Developer Program, which gives you a free Microsoft 365 tenant for the purposes of building and testing your Office add-ins. It's a great way to work with them. There's also Script Lab. If you want to just try out samples, you don't even need a dev environment. You could just load this add-in into Excel or Outlook, whatever else you want, and try out the samples. There's another link for Office add-ins documentation. And then Linda, just want to check if you're on the call, if you wanted to talk about.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you to talk about the engagement part.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Cannon. I'm a senior content PM in the Microsoft 365 developer engagement team. We're the team that's responsible for the developer portals, also the developer program, and community engagement. The reason I'm here today is I'm here to let you know that we are moving our feature request experience from UserVoice over to Microsoft Tech Community, the idea space there. We do have an AKA link for this new place where you could submit feature requests. It's m365dev-suggestions. So in the past, we partnered with UserVoice, but we decided to move over to a first-party solution. That way we can interface better with our own support services, and you can do all sorts of things like mention people in the suggestion and whatnot. You can continue to communicate with Microsoft and UserVoice. I think some sites are still up. I think the SharePoint developer site is still up, but Office developer and Graph developer have now moved over to this new platform. So David, since you're presenting, can you click on the AKA link? And I'll just talk about how you submit an idea. While you're doing that, I wanted you to know that if you have a feature request that you submitted previously on UserVoice, that is not lost. We are currently migrating those into this new platform. So it's still a good idea to, if you have a feature suggestion, to go to our repo, Office.js, and start there. That site's monitored, but what will happen is we'll likely tell you, like we have in the past, instead of going to UserVoice, to go to this new developer platform. So all you need to do is click Submit an Idea. As you can see, there's not much there yet because this is just currently happening right now. And when you click Submit an Idea, there's a few tags, and you can also create your own tag. We have labels for the developer portals, the dev program, Office add-ins development. So that would include Outlook, Excel, Word, PowerPoint. If you have any suggestions for documentation or for the user interface, any suggestions about deploying in the app source, and also Microsoft Graph. So as other Microsoft 365 partners roll off of UserVoice, they will be rolling onto the tech community here, and we will be providing additional labels. You can also add your own idea labels and tags. You can mention people in the messages. So say you have a relationship with Kay or Sudhi or Juan or somebody like that, you could mention them here, which is kind of cool. And really, that's about it. I will post all these links, and as well as the announcement from Microsoft why we're switching off of UserVoice in the chat, and I'll do that right now. And that's pretty much it from me.
Cool. Thank you, Linda. Just wanted to let folks know we have other Microsoft 365 developer community calls. If these are topics you're interested in, go check them out. You can find more info on Microsoft Graph, the Microsoft Identity Platform, and SharePoint. There's a link there that will help you find any of those calls if you're interested in them. Just go to the aka.ms/M365 dev calls. And then finally, just want to thank everybody for attending today's session. Really appreciate it. And once again, thank you, Leslie, for your guest presentation. We really appreciate that. It was really great info to see. We post a recording soon after on the Microsoft 365 Developer YouTube channel of the call. And we also have specific breakouts of each part of the call that will be posted as videos. So check that out if you're interested on the link there. You can also follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev. And the next call, which is the second Wednesday of every month, will be May 12th at 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. There's the link there for the invite if you need it. And if you have any questions in advance of the next call, let us know. Go to aka.ms/link/office add-ins form, and we'll work to get those answered in the next call. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.